Hey everyone, we are back once again, live, just talking about one of the nuggets out of Blinded by Sight, The Heart Matters. And this week, are we going to be talking about a sacrificial spouse? And so this story starts with, well, let me introduce everybody first. We have Ambria Peters. Once again, she's our marriage coach, beautiful lady, a beautiful friend. And then we have a new guest this month, Brianna Adams, and she's a cosmetologist just out of school, and she's trying to start getting going with her business. And we also have Tamara Combs, and she's our single lady that's the nurse. So she has that medical background. And I'm Lisa Keaton, your host. And we are just here to discuss a nugget out of, like I said, Blinded by Sight, Sacrificial Spouse. And what this story basically is about is Abraham and Sarah's journey from the beginning. And God has told Abraham to go out, to leave his family, leave his relatives, and leave his father's house and go to an unknown land, and that he will make him the father of many nations. And so we're going to come from Sarah's point of view. And Sarah's looking at Abraham like, are you crazy? Because I haven't heard anything. So a lot of times as women, the men might get a hearing, or they want to do a purpose, or they want to go some direction. And we're really not sure of what direction they're going in. But, she was obedient, and she went on and she followed him. And also, once they got out there, though, Abraham started to hesitate on some things because he realized that Sarah was beautiful, and there would be some other kings or other people who might be interested in her. And if they were interested in her, they would possibly kill him. And when they got out there, and so he asked Sarah to say, "Hey, tell everybody you're my sister, and I'll tell everybody I'm your brother, and that way I can stay alive." Um, but Sierra also didn't believe that they were going to have children because they were already older in age, and she just thought that her time had passed. And so one of the things, so she has like three issues. First of all, she didn't have clarity and understanding about why they were leaving. She just had to trust that Abraham knew what he was doing. Two, um, Abraham was looking out for his own skin when they got out there. So she didn't know if she could trust him or not because it was all about him. And then three, because they were older, she didn't think that the promise that God had made him was going to happen with her. And so our first question for the night is, um, have you ever followed anybody blindly and out of obedience somewhere, and they get there and then they say, "Hey, tell these people you're my brother or you're my sister in a relationship." And so we're going to open with that question. Because if you're dating somebody and you go somewhere and somebody says something like that, what are you thinking?
I wouldn't dare. I'm sorry. I would just first of all, I'd be offended actually. Just to know that you don't have accountability, to kind of own up to whatever it is that you're trying to prevent yourself from being embarrassed from. It just shows lack of respect and lack of honesty. And I don't think I'll be able to trust that person. Now when it comes to marriage, I kind of look at, whoever my spouse is a little funny. I just will think I think a lot of people experience that in marriage though. Some men honestly just don't know what to do, when to do it, or how to do some things. So they kind of just go with their natural instinct. And that showed Abraham's impatience as well. And that showed him not asking God for any kind of help. So he had some lack of wisdom there. Not saying that he was a horrible spouse, but sometimes it shows you that marriage, sometimes you just really don't know, what to do at that moment. But if I'm single and somebody tell me to follow to act like I'm their sister, no, I'm walking off. It's a no for me.
So I am going to be upset already because I'm blindly following you and you're not giving me any information.
Right.
So then, if we get where we're going and you say you're my sister, my first thought is you think something's wrong with me, like maybe I'm not attractive enough and you don't want people to know we together. That would be my first thought. And then the second one would be it's somebody in here you're trying to mess with, even though.
Right.
So I would immediately think the worst, probably that there's somebody in there he's trying to get with, or something's wrong with me and he don't want to say anything.
Right.
Exactly.
So my first thought was the fact that he even thought that he was going to be killed was crazy. Like she must be the bomb digging, because the fact that you thought she was gonna get killed, she gotta be the baddest girl ever that you finna kill somebody over. That was my first thought. Two, I can agree on the fact that that's crazy. You're denying me because you thought that you were going to get killed, when God definitely has protected us through all these other situations, but you can't trust him to protect you on that situation. So, and I found it interesting how God still protected them even though he still lied. And it wasn't like he lied one time, he lied multiple times.
Yes.
So that was interesting to me on that part.
So it would be like in modern day time, like, like I said, you dating somebody, or like Ambria said, you know what, you go to a party, you go to the club, and I did, you know what, actually I went out with this guy. This was before I got married. And we were in San Diego, and he came to visit, and we went to the club together, and he actually, once we got to the club, he just like disappeared. It was like we weren't even together, right? And I'm just like, okay, what is this? And the whole night he was gone somewhere. I didn't find him. I don't know who he talking to, what he was doing. I don't know anything. But then, when it was like time to go and I was headed to the door, he showed up. Because it was like,
You're like, girl, where you going?
You can't really but I didn't see you the whole time that we were actually in the club. So I'm just like, we ain't together. Why did you come down here to visit me if this is what your intent was to be on the hunt?
Mm-hmm.
Because that's what he was out there doing, looking to see what he could scope out and see what was out there that might have been better. Because that's how they do it. Not that Abraham was doing that, but that's what would happen like nowadays.
Just in case you started tripping.
Right. I just don't find that fair. I just feel as though that, and it's common nowadays with women, they compromise a lot. When it comes to those type of situations, you see it a lot. Social media. It's just a lot of those things. It's not uncommon. Like it's something that's evident, and a lot of people just compromise who they are. I think that's big when it comes to boundaries. I feel like Sarah had a say. If they're married, a spouse also has a say in the marriage of what should go down and what shouldn't. And maybe they could have agreed to disagree, or however that could have went. But I feel as though it could have went another way. But like Brianna said, even though it went that way, God still had, gave them a way out. So.
And he did. He covered them in the end.
Mm-hmm.
But why do you have to put yourself in that kind of situation, and why did you have to do that? And so we're going to go on and say, so have you ever found yourself being impatient? Because in the end, Sarah was very impatient when it came to having a child, because she didn't trust Abraham in that area either, that he had heard a word. So have you ever found yourself in a place where you were impatient when God has made you a promise, but you went ahead and did what you wanted to do, and then maybe in the end it kind of like backfired, or didn't turn out the way that you wanted it to turn out? Yes.
So Tamara, were you about to go?
No, go ahead. Sorry.
So what comes to mind for me is to kind of give you a little background. When we had our son, we were practically children, pretty much, and so something that we always wanted to do for him was to give him his own house, so that he could grow up with neighborhood friends and have his own backyard. And we teach him responsibility with a dog and taking care of things in the yard, things like that. And so I knew that God had promised me that he would give me what we wanted to have for our son, but I didn't know exactly how it was going to come. And so when we got married, I was 24, and my husband lived in Miami at the time, and he was moving here, and we were going to move into my small apartment that was in a very sketchy area, so sketchy that my car got broken into, and our wedding CD got stolen out of the CD player.
Wow.
Yeah, like the whole this was a bad living situation. So my husband was like, "Yeah, we got to get out of here." So we were feeling a little anxious with that, but I've always known that God doesn't give you something that there's a lot of chaos and confusion with. Anything that you have to make work, it's like if I have to do anything that's underhanded or something dishonest to try to make it work, it's just not him. And I should have known that at the time. And so we started looking for a house, and we found one. And everything in the beginning of it seemed like it was perfect. The location was good. Um, I had been talking to the owner, and all of that was good. And I had an inspection done on the house, and I had asked God. I was like, "Look, if this isn't it, just throw up the red flag, shut the door, whatever you got to do." And so the inspector was like, "Don't buy this house." And I was like, "Why?" He was like, "The roof's flat. This addition seems a little sketchy. Like the floor is kind of hollow in it. He was like, just you'll find something else. Don't worry about this one." But he was like, "I'm gonna pass the inspection, but this is my recommendation." So I said, "Okay." Ran into another situation. There was something where I didn't think I was going to need a down payment, but I ended up needing it. So when I told the seller, he was like, "Oh, don't worry about it. I'm going to work the contract." He's like, "I'm going to give you the money. You put it in your account, and then we're gonna." So he finessed the contract so that
Wow.
it looked as if I had the money, even though I didn't have it. I'm like, "Is that you, Lord?" But I'm like, "That's still being dishonest. So that might not be." And so we had some other. I can run you down a list of sketchy things that happened, but we still ended up making this work. But we had to do a lot of things. I know that God was in it, saying, "Just chill, just don't do this, just wait on this," and we did it anyway. Y'all, that house was a money pit. Anything you could think of to go wrong on a house, it went wrong. We had crazy neighbors. Our neighbor was standing at our door in the middle of a hurricane at like 2 a.m. with a raincoat on, looking crazy as I don't know what. Like, "Hey, y'all got a tree about to uproot over here. You might want to come out and look at it." Look,
And
I thought,
hurricane?
yes, it was. We listen. So many crazy things happened. While I know that situation is something that we were being impatient in, and God was trying to tell us to wait, He still ended up making it work out for our good. But it could have been a totally different situation if we had been more patient and waited. So that was my example of
Impatience.
rushing God and being impatient.
Wanting to help, give him a helping hand, huh?
Right. Let me help you out. We're gonna finesse this contract and make it work out. When I shouldn't have had to do all of that to try to make it work. But y'all, that was a bad situation.
Going back to the first question, I want to say back up just a little bit because I just thought about an idea that I had when I was about trust. Sarah went out there and she just followed her man blindly, right? And she trusted that he knew what he was doing initially. And I was just thinking about trust because, I have some trust issues. And I'm like, I think the last man that I followed blindly was my father. And when he broke that trust, that pretty much broke it for a lot of the men down the line. And so, that set the stage for a whole lot of things in life that God is still helping me with, or, getting me to open up and realize, what, not every man is like that. And so that's one of the things that, when men, or even when anybody, whether it's your mother or your father, break that trust at a young age, it could cause problems down the line of how you see people and how you treat people and how you view different things in life. So right now I'm going through that whole mindset thing of changing what happened or what occurred, or having God to help me change it and see things in a different way. And so that was one of the things that I thought about when it came to just trusting people blindly and stuff like that. And you still got to be wise. You got to be discerning because everybody is not out for your best interest. So, but yeah, so that can cause problems.
I want to say, I don't know. Oh, sorry.
Go ahead. No, go ahead. You're fine.
I don't know if I mean I come up with a lot of plans. Sometimes I don't execute. So most of my plans don't necessarily backfire, but they kind of either wash away or God will show me why they don't need to be executed. Like I'll have there's a lot of things lined up, but God, He'll slow me down, I'll say. So He'll slow me down and He will give me wisdom on how to move properly. Um and I want to say, Ambria, what you said was a good point. And girl, that was a word for me because I'm actually asking God for a couple of things right now. And what you said was, being patient and knowing God's voice and discerning Him. I've been reading lately, and I don't know why, but God's been wanting me to stay here. I feel as though, but I've been reading about Elijah the prophet, how um, he was amongst the false prophets with Ahab and Jezebel and all the things that were going on. And he was claiming himself to be one of the last prophets who was doing good and all this stuff, basically being over optimistic in what God had sent him out to do, which is possible. We can bear to be over optimistic. So he did all that he did, and then Jezebel sent out, I guess, people to go kill him. And God was he actually went to go hide himself on the same mountain that Moses did. Moses was in his trouble and everything, Mount Sinai. And Elijah he was depressed because he was like, well, I did everything that you wanted me to do. Why is this happening? Like when we make our plans, I feel as though God, when I make plans, doing things that He wants me to do, I'm like, well, why is this happening? Like, why can't I just fulfill what it is that you want me to do without it not necessarily backfiring, but with it just being at ease for me to go ahead? And when I was reading it, God came in an earthquake, he came in wind, and he came in I forgot like fire. He came in all of these things where you would expect him to come in, something so tremendous and big. Not saying that God isn't, but God wasn't in those things, even though those were His manifestations. He was in the small, still voice, and it just makes so much sense. And Bria, what you were saying that like trying to go forth with the plan, trying to do all of these things, but God is telling you to be still and to just wait on Him because He sees the picture and the frame. He's the one that sustains. So He's the frame as well, outside of just the little bit of portrait that we see. So that was just good. So I don't really necessarily have plans that backfire, but He's so faithful that He actually stops me in my tracks so it won't backfire on me.
I think one of those things about hearing him, that small, still voice, it could be very, very hard to hear him because you have the computer going, you got the iPad going, you got the cell phone going, you got the TV going, you got the radio going. You have so much noise in your life of different things going on. So it's kind of hard to just draw back, and your mind is like my mind spins. It could be out of control. And it's just so much. And it's like, how do you go? Where do you go to be still so that
Right.
you can hear him and so that you do know what he's saying when he's saying it? And it's not just your desires or your flesh or whatever's going on, but so that he could talk to your mind. Um, it's that can be hard in society today. And so, with the younger generation, you guys are the younger generation. I don't know how y'all do it. I don't know how maybe you can tell us, what do you guys do to be able to, hear from God?
I
And so,
think as a young person, it is hard because we have so much at our hands now. We have access to so many things, and it just you have to have a life of discipline. I'll say, like, it's just nothing. It's just like that's the clearest statement that I can say. Like having a life of discipline is the only way to go if you want to actually hear from God. And He comes to us and how we will understand it. So it's essential to have a life of solitude with Him, a prayer life and knocking out time for Him, basically, setting time apart to hear from Him. So it's just discipline. Like there's no way around it because at the end of the day, faith, it comes by, by having discipline anyway. faith comes by hearing, but in order to maintain that, you have to be disciplined, to want to hear more, right? So it's just a lack of discipline. Is all I can say. It's hard too, but it's what gets answered, if you're seeking. So,
I think Evangelist Jeffrey was answering your question too, because the devil does not want to fulfill God's purpose for your life. That's why you have opposition, and that's why it's not really easy for you to move forward, even when God is telling you what to do. You know what I'm saying? You're still gonna meet that. You're gonna have that bumping because that's what the devil does. That's his job to cause that opposition.
I don't like that.
And Alex has agreed, discipline is key and being intentional with setting aside time. And a lot of times, even myself with marketing my books and stuff like that, sometimes I'm just like really exhausted because, I work during the week. And then on the weekend, I'm trying to market my books and I'm going to different events and I'm out there. And then so I make it a purpose on Saturday mornings at 6 o'clock prayer to be there no matter what, because I need to have that time with God so that I can you know, shut down and say, okay, Lord, I'm here to hear you. And so a lot of times I do hear him in that morning in that small still voice. And so that's one of the places that I get into the sanctuary. Some people get it at home. Some people, I've had them talk to me in the car driving. Wherever you at, even if you hear a song or music or however he speaks to you, when he speaks to you, you just got to be open to hear.
One last thing. I'm glad you mentioned that because I forgot to say that God, He's redeeming every aspect of us. So whatever does not look like Him, He wants us to bring all of that to Him. So even though that He didn't come in what it is that we think He may come in, that just shows Him that God is so big that He's so small that He cares about us and He knows our human nature. So every aspect of us, mentally, physically, emotionally, psychologically, he doesn't leave out anything of a human being, and he does not. It's not no not one thing that he doesn't address. So
Right.
when you actually go to him, he's addressing every part of you. So it's so very important, and which God, I think, which is why God pursues us, because He wants us to see that He cares for every part of us, not just the spiritual part of us. He knows we're human. He knows we have physical needs as well. So, and that's His faithfulness. So,
Yeah. When Tamara just said that there's not one thing that he doesn't address, I was talking to someone recently and I was thinking about how everything in my life, like when I decided that when, so let me back up. Everything in my life has been, he's used everything in it to get me to where I am. The opposition, the difficulties. I think about difficulty that I experienced in different positions with work and how with every position it prepared me. All of its opposition, its trouble, the good things, everything that was bad about it prepared me for where I was going. And so, and all of it was a part of refining everything about me. So he's always, even in opposition, he's always working on something in you that you're going to need for the next level in whatever area of life it is.
That is very true. So when help hurts, sometimes we stick our hands in something that we shouldn't have. You get burnt if you do, or before you're in a rush to get to wherever you want to go, or you lack patience or understanding. You don't know. You don't have a clear picture. And sometimes God doesn't give us the whole picture. We don't have a clear, and we have to walk out. But we got to make sure that what we're hearing is Him and not ourselves and our desires. Um, it can be hard. Like I said, it can be really hard in the world that we live in today. Um, and it's just part of life.
mhm.
So Sister Benita or Elder Benita said, correct, our lives and everything we go through is linear. It all connects.
Yeah.
So it all works out for God's good in the end. Even the bad, the good, the bad, and the ugly. because it's all going to come together at some point in time if you're his child.
His child.
Right. So have you had things that God has promised you that you struggle with to believe? Because even though it was Sarah, we're talking about really from Sarah's point of view, she had problems with what God promised Abraham, um, that she didn't believe. So do you have problems with believing what you hear, or do you have problems with hearing what somebody else saying they're hearing? Because it's like two different things. I know sometimes I can have, because I have trust issues, I'll be looking at you crazy like, did you really hear that from God? And if you heard that from God, why he ain't telling you to do that, but you keep telling me he's telling me to do that? So, yeah, but sometimes, and and I'm not saying sometimes people can hear for you better than you can hear for yourself, and they can tell you. So you have to be open. It could go either way. So, but have you guys had that experience?
Yeah, I've had people tell me things that God was saying specifically so that they could appear to be deep. Um, and I didn't really know where it was coming from. I'm like, oh, okay. um, but I've also had it, not. It's not that I didn't believe what was being told to me um, because of trust issues. It was me not feeling like I was worthy or could have what I was being told I would have.
Right.
And so it was always difficult to believe. Bishop Jones gave me so many prophecies over the years, and I would say like the first 5 to 10, I was like, come on now. It's like, no way. And so I would actually see those things happen, but I saw them happen when I was ready when I had the character for those things to happen. It never happened when I wanted it to. Like Pastor would prophesy a certain amount a certain amount of money, and I would be like, "Oh yes, that should come tomorrow."
Right.
I was not prepared for that at all. The person that I was at the time, I wasn't prepared for. And he wasn't saying that it was going to come right then, but it was coming. And I'm telling you that there's some things that Bishop Jones has told me that happened. I'm talking about he's giving me a dollar amount that was right on, like spot on, and I was still struggling because of my own securities. And just not, it was just hard for me to believe because of my own issues and insecurities. And but everything that God has told me that I would have, I did have, but it was in the process of me growing and developing and being refined and going through trouble and opposition and issues and just becoming better. Growing into looking more like him is when a lot of those things happened. It wasn't immediate. But yeah, I had to be prepared for what he was giving me.
I know one thing that Elder Benita said about everything is linear, right? And I guess when I first got to the church, I didn't connect all the dots, realizing that everything would all flow together. So a lot of times I would get a word from Bishop and I wouldn't even remember the word. Somebody else would remind me of the word, and then it would come true. And they'd be like, "Oh, you remember when you got that word from him?" And blah blah blah. And I'm like, "Oh yeah, he did say he did say that." So I wasn't even consciously connecting all the dots. And so sometimes, you can get a word, and you know what? It leaves as soon as you leave the building. You know what I'm saying? And then people remind you, "Hey, you got this word." And so I got in the habit of saying, "Hey, if I get a word, somebody write this word down so I can remember and I can have a copy of what he's saying." Because sometimes when you're up there and you in the thick of it or in the moment, that stuff comes and it might hit your spirit, but it don't necessarily hit your mind and you don't remember.
I used to write down words for people, and I used to be afraid to give it to them because I thought they were going to think it was weird. Like, why you put my cup?
I love that because I'm telling you, sometimes it's just, you're a blank slate when you're up there and my mind go blank. And it's just like, what did he say? After it's all over, what did he say? Wait a minute, I want to know. I really want to know what he said, But there's been times even when he has preached And I was telling you the example earlier, and he said I got a check in the mail at the house for like a mortgage return, and I have gone to service, and it was like doing a convocation, and he was saying the exact dollar amount. Now I didn't get it; it was telling me to give it, and I'm just like, okay, Lord, you need to leave me alone about the finances. But I was obedient and I did give it. But sometimes it's a struggle. Yeah, just doing what you're asked to do. Alex got on here. She said, I'm open to either because there have been things I doubted that I've heard and then brushed it off, but then someone else came and confirmed it. And it comes from people I haven't talked to about it, what I thought I heard. So that's always good when God gives you a confirmation about what's going on and what you're hearing. And she said some things are easier to believe than others. So that is good. So Elder or Evangelist Jeffrey said, I have had people say things to me as confirmation of something that he may want me to do, but I will always seek God first about it before I did anything. He leads us through our spirit and his word.
That's true.
That's good.
I've always got direct words. It was always, well, lately I'll say it's been more direct to me. And I'm sure it's because I've been trying to grow more with God to know how to hear His voice, instead of depending on prophesy, or, just stuff like instead of trying to depend on what somebody else can tell me, I can hear those things myself. You know, so just trying to depend and lean more on Him. Also, it just makes it better, and it gives me more joy that I heard a word from Him.
Mhm.
It gives me more anticipation to hear what comes next with that word. But Bria, like you said, character. I think when sometimes I used to get so upset when I hear stuff from God, and then it don't. It takes a couple months to come, and I'm like, well, God, I'm not saying that, but you could have just kept that word to yourself, and then you could have just like we could have just waited. But I think within that, it just shows how impatient that we are, and it just shows how we're just so in a rush to do things instead of to learn and to enjoy the joy of the salvation, like enjoy the journey of salvation and what it takes to get there. It makes us appreciate what's at the end too. It makes us appreciate the outcomes, because I honestly think now, since I've been a nurse, it's been a journey to get here, but it's never been about me becoming a nurse.
Yeah.
It's always been about the journey, like the hardships that I had to go through, the failures that I had to go through, the setbacks. It's just a lot of things that has happened just for me to get to this place. And it makes me appreciate it more. My work ethic is better. A lot of people compliment me on my work ethic. That's because I actually tend to it and I care for it, because it took me a minute to get here. I don't know about y'all, but it makes me appreciate where God is going to take me. So I have been doubtful, of course, but I think just lately I've been learning to just recognize His beauty in just waiting. It's hard. Now
Yeah.
I've never prayed for patience. I'll go around it. I'm like, Lord, I'm just gonna pray that you teach me how to wait. Like I just don't say patience. Because I've heard a lot of
Yeah.
people say, like, don't pray the P word, or, like, don't pray for patience. And we're going to put you in situations where you're going to have to learn how to be patient. So I just like tread my way around it.
But does that really
Yeah.
work? I mean, because if you need patience, he's gonna teach it to you anyway. Don't
Exactly. So it's kind of like you might as well just say it, girl. Just say patience, whatever. And whenever he does throw me in a situation, I'm like, okay, sure, we can do it. So it's just it's it just makes me appreciate the relationship more. Even when I do doubt, the plans and stuff, it just makes me appreciate him more. That he's really into a relationship and intimacy.
Tamara, he's actually done a lot with you in a short period of time.
Yes,
Um,
girl.
and I say that I say that because you're so young, but you're being used as a light where you are. You got the wisdom of a 40-year-old that's been in the faith for 20 years, but you're in the capacity that you're in at the age that you are, and as being as young as you are, having and being a positive influence and a light, and that's amazing. That just shows, that speaks volumes about where you're headed and what you're going to be doing.
I thank God for the remnant. You gotta have a remnant.
Hey, no, serious. We need you and Brianna.
Yes,
Look,
Lord, we need both of them.
Because if the children are our future.
I'm trying. It still be coming out though. My 22-year-old self, it, but God bless.
I mean, and it will. I mean, you're still growing and developing, but you're still you're still doing so well.
Thank you so much. Thank you.
I mean, even with the fact that you wanted to participate, both of you ladies wanted to participate, even in doing this go live, because I was like, oh my God, who can I pray, Lord? Who can I ask? Who's who's still, at least want to be able to acknowledge you out in the open, because you don't always, get young people who are willing to come on and talk about God and to, expose what they're going through and talk about, before we talked about dating and we talked about, different areas. And, so I just thank you ladies both for being willing to share and to come and to know that you are still in the journey and you're still in the walk.
Of course. Thank you.
Awesome. I'm actually dealing with the whole P word now.
Right.
I don't know if I've told you guys, but I am on the verge of trying to be an entrepreneur, trying to work for myself, being my own boss. So that's been in my whole spirit since I was in elementary school. So I always wanted to do that. And I know I have the strength to do that, and I've gotten confirmation from God, and I have talked to God on how we can, work this out. So the whole goal is to minister to people not just in the sanctuary, but through just conversation. I noticed that there are a lot of people that need help, but they don't want to go to church because church has scarred them. So I have been chosen, apparently, to be that person that gives, godly advice without saying, "Oh, thus says the Lord," like that. I was trying to get a building for my product and so I can service my clients by myself, because I'm tired of sharing my money. That's just me, and that's my pride and my mindset, my selfishness. I don't like sharing. I'm very selfish. And that's something that the Lord is continuing to work on. And now that I'm thinking about it out loud, I think that's why he said no, because I'm selfish. Also, I'm very petty. So I think that if I was to get this big thing, if I was to be that person that I desire to be, this great, having great income, very well known, I would be very petty. Looking at it right now and just say I would be very petty. And like you said, I have trust issues too, and people have definitely hurt me. So I would definitely be bitter, and I would probably do tick for tack, and I'd probably be worse. But that's not fair. So I think that's another reason why. So that's now I'm talking about out loud. Yeah. He knew what he was doing. He knew what he was doing, not giving me what I wanted, because I'm not ready for what I want. I do know he will give me what I want and more. So I have no doubt about that. I believe what he has promised me, and I know he's going to give it to me. It's just not at that point of time because I'm not going to do what he wants me to do with it. I'm going to abuse it. So that's the thing.
And that goes
But
back to
he's
what
working.
that goes back to what Ambria said about you got to be ready.
The
He's
character.
working it in you. Yeah, and through your circumstances and the things that you're going through, all of that, you'll look back one day and say, it all worked together. So everything that you're going through, the difficulties, the things that the times when it just feels like it's not going to happen, and just all of the hurdles and everything you're having to jump through, it's building something in you so that you're prepared for what you're going to get, because you're going to get it. It's just you're gonna walk through some things to make sure that you're ready to have it.
Yeah. And impatience. I have to be patient.
Oh,
I have to be patient too. And that was another thing. I wanted it now. I was tired of it now. I'm sick of it now. I want it to end right now. Let's do it right now. And he's like, no. So we're still on chapter 3 and you're trying to skip to chapter 10. That's not it's not how it works. You can't take a shortcut on this, honey. So yeah.
When I think about, even sometimes I think about like my husband will talk about me now as a wife in comparison to who I was before. And when I think back sometimes too, I'm like, when did all of the stupid stuff shed? Like when did all of the immaturity leave me? Because I remember being very crazy, very immature. Just being inconsistent, lack of commitment. I had so many character issues when it came to my relationship. And I think about that now, and I watch my husband and he just seems so much happier with me. And I'm like, when did all this happen? And it's over time, just through all of the lessons and everything that I've gone through to grow and develop in every area of my life. It's made me who I am, and I wouldn't trade it. So whenever you're feeling frustrated, things don't seem like they're working out the way that they're supposed to, you're going to look back and be like, I'm so glad that I had to go through all of those things, because it's going to make you exactly what you need to be for what you're going to get.
And I'm gonna tell you what, the road to entrepreneurship is not an easy it's not an easy road. It is not work. Everybody says, oh, I want to work for myself, but it takes so much commitment, so much dedication, so much you have to encourage yourself. I mean, it is not for the faint of heart. I'll put it like that. You have got to it's got to be something that God has definitely put deep down into your soul that you want to chase after, that you want to run after, because if not, it's just not going to work. And the whole thing, and I was just talking to somebody about this earlier today. I was like, I have to change my mindset, from being, I've worked as a computer programmer and worked for somebody else for so long. And so I'm so used to being that, the worker bee. You go in, you do your job and then you leave, right? Yeah, I have to take it home with me. I don't have to do any of that stuff. When you are an entrepreneur, that thing is with you 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, and it's your baby. It's your baby. You're going to have to give birth to it. You're going to have to push it out. You're going to have to feed it. You're going to have to nurture it. It is all yours. And it is a lot. So, I'll be praying for you.
Please do, because my car is full of my things. I travel with my product everywhere. My room is full of it everywhere. I've made so many sacrifices already, and I just started. I have no life outside of it, but I'm not mad at it, though. Not completely.
Look, if I can show you my office, you'd be like, oh my God, my room probably look like your room. I got books everywhere. My car still has stuff in it from this past weekend when I went to do vending. It takes a lot. You have to be committed. You have to, it's got to be something that God has put in you to stick it out and to stick it through, because it's not, somebody told me at church Sunday, one of the brothers, he was like, every time I look on Facebook, you out vending somewhere. He was like, how do you do it? How do you have this energy to get out there and go out there every weekend? And I'm just like, I feel like it's something God gave me these books. I didn't give them to me. I'll do my part, but he's going to do his part. So he has to breathe on this. Um, but I'm not going to give up. I'm not going to let it easily go. I'm not going to, just not do it. And I say it's just a part of who I am. It's a part of my character. Once he gives me something, I'm focused on it and I want to get it done and I want to do it as best as I can. And so I will hold on to it until he tells me not to do it anymore. Sometimes in life, I'm like, I look at other people and I'm like, how do they just say, I'm not doing it and just let things drop? That is not a part of my character. I will go to bed and it will wake me up and I'm like, I can't drop it. I can't drop it. I gotta do it. And so it has to be that burning desire within you to keep wanting to go and go and go and go and to do what he tells you to do. So believe me, he's gonna give you patience. And just like she just said, it's gonna build your character and your fortitude, and you're gonna keep moving forward. But like I said, the going back to the story part with Sarah, don't help God's plan. No, because it can hurt in the end because what she did by helping Abraham caused them to have Ishmael, and then they had the whole different tribe, and then it caused a whole lot of confusion and a whole lot of problems even until this day. So the journey's not easy. We are on the journey, but just hang in there and just be open to being able to hear what he's actually saying to you. Surround yourself with godly counsel, with godly people, because they will help you to hear, and just keep moving forward. That's all we can do. And even if you make a mistake, it's a mistake. You just get up and you move, you keep going, because we all make them. Nobody on this earth is perfect. Perfect. And so yeah. So mistakes are good. As long as you learn from them. Anybody have any last and closing statements or anything they would like to add? Go ahead.
I just want to point out that even in the end, God, within our patience, in impatience, God is always and will remain faithful. And I also just want to point out how he changed Abraham's and Sarah's name.
Mhm.
Well, Abram to Abraham, then was it Sarah to Sarah? Yeah. So in the end, God, like, the outcome is always to change you, to change your mind about the old, well, I think Bishop lately has been talking about forgetting the former things, and Isaiah, that's real, like that's really true, and I believe that's God's goal in the end, and to even accept eternity with Him, you have to have a change of mindset, from worldly to like heavenly places, or just His promises. It definitely just takes a change of mindset, and I think that's just God's goal with every situation He places you in. He wants you to change your mind from what it was, the old tactics versus the new tactics. So with Him changing names, I believe God just wants us to have a change of mind.
That's true. So anyway, I think we're gonna wrap up if nobody else has any comments or anything.
I wanted to say thank you to all of our viewers and the great comments.
Yes.
Yeah, thank you.
Yes. We thank everybody who came on with us today and sit here and spend time with us. We really appreciate it. We try to do this once a month. We're taking like a nugget out of my book, Blinded by Sight, The Heart Matters. You can get it on my website, claimedbyhim.com. Also, I have the flip side. I'm sure eventually we'll take some nuggets out of this book too. And we just appreciate you guys being here. Ladies that are out there, I just started women's devotional. If you reach out to me on my website, www.claimedbyhim.com, I can tell you where this devotionals for Christian women. And you're more than welcome to join that group. And we just share little positive nuggets in the community and try to support each other and encourage each other. Well, anyway, we want to say thank you to everybody. We pray that you were blessed. Thank you, ladies, for being transparent and open. I really appreciate it. And everybody, you guys have a good evening. Thank you. Bye-bye.